Hey everybody, welcome back to the wood shop for another video in our reclaimed wood series.
Today we're going to be building a large jewelry box with some pallet wood. Right here we've got some maple, and Brian's going to tell you a little bit about this other piece we've got here that we're going to be using as an accent.
Now if you watch enough of our videos, you've probably learned by now we use a lot of pallet wood, and we come across some good finds a lot of the time. This right here is maple, which we're going to be using for the sides of this jewelry box. And this is 11/16 of an inch thick hard maple, and you know, you don't find that very often on a pallet. We got lucky on that one. Now, we deal with a lot of red oak, a lot of pine off of these pallets. Some walnut, we get some walnut every now and then, a lot of sapwood in it, but it's still walnut. This we come across just recently, and at this point I have no idea what it is. It's a really deep red tint, and it's really heavy and dense, and it kind of reminds you, actually the closest thing I can compare it to right now is walnut. I mean, the figure, the pattern of the grain, everything is really similar between this and walnut. The rays, they're all about the same size. The density, it's pretty much the same. You know, I've compared this to a lot of woods here. You know, definitely, you know, it's definitely not red oak. Red oak has really huge rays in it, and cherry, you know, you don't see any rays in cherry really. So if anybody out there knows what this wood is, please leave a comment and let me know, because this one really has me confused. And I've seen a lot of different types of wood off of pallets, and I've even got this contractor paper here so you don't get confused by the grain in this table. But I mean, take a good look at this. What is this wood?
Alright, for this jewelry box we are using majority maple. This is about 5.5 inches. We are going to be ripping these sides down in just a bit. The first thing we need to do is run this through the planer, because this is quite thick, as you can see. We're going to plane this down to 3/4 of an inch for the lid and the floor, and then 1/2 inch for the actual body of the box. And then once we get our boards all ripped down, we'll plane them, we'll rip them, and then we're going to have to make panels to actually extend the wood. And we're going to use some of that mystery wood in the lid, so stick around for that. I'm really excited. But first things first.
Alright, now that we have all of our boards planed, the next thing I'm going to do is take the table saw and cut off all of these split ends and joint the edges good and square. Okay, the size of our jewelry box is going to be 10 inches long by 6 inches wide. Now we plan on overhanging the top and the bottom 1 inch on all sides. So we're going to have to joint together two panels that are 8 by 12. Now the bottom panel is just going to be solid maple, so it doesn't matter about it. But for the top panel, we're going to have two accent strips made out of this so far mystery wood that we don't know what it is as of right now. So that means I'm going to have to cut 3 maple strips that are 2 3/8 of an inch, and this is already planed to 1/2 inch. Okay, now we have these 3 maple strips that are 2 3/8 of an inch wide, and I said before, this mystery wood is planed to 1/2 inch. That's because we're going to be using edge grain accent strips. Now I've got to cut these at 11/16, which is the thickness of my lid. That way we can get this in here and join up this panel. It's going to wind up being 8 inches and 1/8, I believe. We'll take care of that extra 1/8 inch later. Well, now we have all the pieces for our top and our bottom cut and ready to glue together.
Now we do have to be really careful. We're going to try to clamp all these together at the same time. These two pieces are for the floor of the box and these are for the lid. So we have to make sure that we don't glue these together. Otherwise we're going to have one big panel.
Well, now while our top and bottom panels are setting up to dry, we'll go ahead and get started on the sides of the box. Now, I already edge jointed these a while ago. Just got to rip them to 5 inches, which is the height of our jewelry box, and then we'll head on over to the miter saw.
Alright, we have moved over to the miter saw. The first thing we're going to do is clean up the edges of our boards. We did cut them off of pallets. And then we're going to need 2 pieces that are 6 inches and 2 pieces that are 10 inches. I think I'm going to leave 1/8 of an inch extra on each board just because after this we are going to miter the edges to fit together our box. Now that we have all the pieces cut for the body of our box, we've done a dry fit, make sure everything looks good. One thing you do want to watch out for is to make sure that the bevel is correct on your miter saw. We did have to play with it a little bit, so it's probably going to be just a smidge smaller than we had originally planned because we had to fix that, but now it looks good. So let's go ahead and flip this over. We've got some tape on here. Put some glue in these joints and we'll wrap it up.
Now, while the body of the box sits and dries, we'll go ahead and get to work on our top and bottom panels. Now we're going to run our top and bottom panels through the planer. We'll start out by taking the top through on the planer sled to get one nice flat surface.
The next step in our project is to cut our panels to length. They're going to be 12 inches long, and the first thing we're going to do is just square off one end. For a decorative touch, we are going to make 45-degree cuts on each edge of these panels. When we're done, we will flip the blade back up to 90 degrees and soften these edges back out We'll understand what we mean in just a minute. We did learn one thing. We need a new miter saw blade. We're going to head over to the table saw and finish this up.
Well, now that we have our top and bottom panel done, we set this up to where you can kind of see what the box is actually going to look like. Now, just a few more steps left and the exterior of the box will be finished.
As you can see, we have that's going to be the top of our lid with this mystery wood accent. We think that turned out really nice. You can see how we softened these edges, took it over to the table saw and kind of softened that up a little bit. That looks good. Got a nice sturdy body, all maple. And there is the bottom. You can see we do have some burn marks from the saw blade. This is some really hard wood, but you know, Sandra will take care of that. No big deal.
Alright, the next step in the process is to split the body of the box into two sections. Total height of this is 5 inches. We're going to cut 1 inch off of the height. That will be glued to this top panel, which will become the total lid. Now, for the remaining 4 inches, it will be glued to the bottom panel, which will become the rest of the body of the box, and that will include a tray.
All right, it's time to assemble our lid. We have our nice stripy panel and a 1 inch section of box. We're just going to attach this with some glue and clamps on each corner.
And now we're going to glue the body portion of the box to the bottom panel. Well, all this glue's had time to get good and dry, and the exterior of the box is pretty much finished. It just needs a little bit of tweaking here and there. The lid and the top of the body, we'll have to sand those and get them to fit together a little bit better where we cut them on the table saw. Got some glue to scrape off with a chisel. Other than that, we're moving on to the harder part, which is what goes inside of this.
So what we're going to do next is we are going to cut a couple of tray rests. We want to make a tray, so we're going to take some of that accent wood, cut a couple of pieces for the tray to rest on, get those glued in, and then for the exciting part, we're going to build a tray for this box. And it's going to be somewhat basic, but great for beginners. So let's go ahead and get started on that.
And now we're going to start cutting up the wood that makes the walls of our tray and the cleats that go inside the box that hold it in place. We're going to rip pieces off of this that are about 3/8 of an inch wide. That'll be good for the cleats. Now this, we're going to have to cut 3 strips of this. The tray will be 1.5 inches tall, so they'll be 1.5 inches wide. First thing I'll do is go ahead and clean up the rough edges on these, then we'll start ripping them.
All right, right, we're over here at the miter saw. We are going to cut the lengths on these boards that Brian just ripped on the table saw. For our cleats, they're going to need to be 9 inches long. We'll clean up one edge and then measure those and cut them. These are going to be for the perimeter of the tray. We need 2 pieces that are 9 inches long, and we need 2 pieces for the sides of the tray that will be 4 and 9/16. So earlier I was trying to rattle off some quick math in my head on how wide that the pieces for the side of our tray needed to be, and I said 4 and 9/16. That is actually not correct. It is 4 and 11/16, so let's go ahead and cut those now.
Alright, here we have the 2 pieces that are the long sides of our tray. We've got to cut a rabbet in each end of these. That'll be where the short side joins up. And we've got to cut 2 dados in these. That'll be where 2 dividers go across the tray. Okay, now we've got all the pieces sawed and ready to put together for our tray and these little cleats that hold it in place. We went ahead and cut the dividers for the tray too while we were at it. We got the dados in them and the divider that goes in between those 2. And now there should be no more sawing to do at this point. It's now time for assembly.
So what we're going to start with, you'll see in here inside the box, I've made a couple of tape lines on each side. Wood glue is something tricky to get off after it's dried, so we're going to try to prevent it as much as possible. Hopefully the glue will just dry on this tape and we can pull the tape off. So let's put some glue on these cleats and we will get them clamped on so they can dry.
Now it's time to assemble the tray. We're going to start from the center and work our way out from there. Well, I said earlier I thought we were done cutting. I was wrong. We still got to cut the floor panel for the tray. Now this is a little piece of wood that I had planed down to, I think it's about an 1/8 inch thick. It's real thin. We're going to rip this to width. It'll wind up being 4 and 15/16. Then we'll cut it to length. We'll glue her down.
Alright, it is time to glue and clamp this tray to the floor, the tray's floor that is, and we'll let it sit and dry while we finish the rest of the box. are getting so close to the end of this project. While our tray is setting up, we're going to hit this box with some 220 grit, and then Brian will start on some hardware.
Okay, it's time now to put these hinges on. These screws are super small. I don't think I need a pilot hole for this, but if I wind up cracking this maple, then you can say I told you so. Alright, now we're going to install one of these latches. It's one of these deals where it's kind of like a hasp. It swings over and then you have this little catch that goes in the little hole there. I don't know really what these are called exactly, but they don't really do much to actually secure the lid down tight or anything. They're more for looks than anything. But it will keep stuff from spilling all over the place if you pick this up by the lid or something and this is actually closed. Now again, I'm not going to do pilot holes. We'll cross your fingers. Now you can see the construction part of our box is complete. We have our hinges, we got our little latch here. You see how that works? So we're all set up and ready to do the part that I really don't like to do myself, so I'll let her handle it.
I love finishing, particularly with one of our favorites, Danish oil. Once we start to rub that on here, you're going to see the maple and our mystery wood. Like we said, if you know what this is, just leave us a comment. But we think this is going to be really beautiful. So let's go ahead and get this thing finished. Here is our tray. We've taken it out of the clamp. So what we're going to do now is give this a little sand, put some Danish oil on it, and our jewelry box will be complete. I'm excited.
Well, there you have it. We've got ourselves a jewelry box, and I can't believe this was actually made out of pallet wood.
It really is amazing what you can find on pallets. The majority of this is maple, and like we said earlier, we have no idea what the mystery wood is. It kind of looks like cherry, maybe bloodwood, padock, we don't know. But we've also used some of it on the inside. I'll try to go ahead and open this for you. By the way, if you like this hardware, we got that off Amazon. Look there. It's a tray. And it is such a good fit. When you actually pull on this, it has a little bit of suction.
And we forgot to mention this tray is actually made out of oak.
More pallet wood.
Yeah.
As you can see in there, the tray rest, those cleats are also made out of our wonderful mystery wood. And I can't believe it's taken us quite a while. Of course, we edit these videos down so that, they're more watchable for you folks. But we've actually spent several days putting this jewelry box together. Watch that tray just slide in there. Isn't that cool? We really do love this jewelry box. And you know, you could always go out and buy a jewelry box, but it's a lot more fun to make one. This is a really, really special project, and I think this is probably my favorite project we've done. We actually had these hinges on the back left over from our heritage crates that we made last year for Mr. Tibbs.
When they still had hinges.
When they still had hinges, the 2020 version. So if you want to go back and check out the Heritage Crate Final Cut, we'll link that up here in the box above us. But yeah, we love it. We just love this jewelry box. And this would be a really great gift. This would be a great item to sell if you're looking to start a woodworking business. So if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comments below.
Now, I forgot to mention this, but a lot of people actually will put liners in these trays. You can use some velvet or some felt or whatever you want to. You got to be really exact with an X-Acto knife and cut it out. It's pretty tedious, so we actually didn't do it with this one. We might later, but yeah, you can do that if you want to.
We really hope you enjoyed today's video. This has been a really fun project for us. Never miss an episode of Wood Songs by Russell. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. And also follow us on Facebook. We're over there. We have a website, www.woodsongsbyrussell.com. We're also on Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter. So make us part of your social following.
Thanks again for joining us, and remember,
Happy woodworking!